Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Travel Mole broadcast. And I'm delighted this afternoon to have two very, very important people within the organisation of Destinations International, which is a membership organisation that represents and tries to influence what destinations and how they handle their management and their marketing. Jane Cunningham, who's in the middle of nowhere in the Baltic, as you can probably see. She's outside, she's looking good, looking cool. And we have Sophia Heider-Hock, who I'm not sure where you are, Sophia, but nevertheless, you're looking cool as well. I'm the only one that's looking hot and sweaty in this discussion, but never mind. Let's crack on. Jane, you've been appointed recently to bring a European element to Destinations International and to be a foot in the door of Europe. Tell me, what's your ambition and what's the sort of brief for your role?
Thank you very much. Well, essentially what we want to do is create a value proposition for European destinations. Currently, Destinations International is quite North American, including Canada, Mexico, and around 15 other destinations around the world. But we really want to create something that's going to help elevate what destinations in Europe are doing. But we have to do that as a journey. We need to do it with the destinations in Europe. So I've spent the past couple of months since I joined really on my listening tour to understand where are the gaps, what are the challenges, and so that we can look at creating something of value together.
Excellent. Sophia, you've been just recently appointed as diversity officer for Destinations International. I would pose the same question to you. What is the brief and what is your role within the organization?
My role in the organization, I see it as kind of a four-pronged approach. It is really to take a look at what equity, diversity, and inclusion truly means within our organization, so within our team, within the verticals of the type of services and the offerings that we have, so education, our meetings and events, the list goes on and on. What that also looks like for our membership, so our destinations as well as our partners. So what I plan on doing is really assessing all of those areas to understand what challenges that we're facing, what our best practices are, and then to build resources and services to truly adapt and implement a culture of welcoming and belonging, not only in the United States, but as Jane does her listening tour and her work, we want to apply that principles of welcoming and belonging to our members around the world.
Excellent. If I can stick with you, Sophia, for a second, I just wanted to go through a couple of the issues I think the travel and tourism industry are facing. And I'm sure Jane has heard this in her listening tour. If she hasn't heard that, and that would be a big surprise, is that we have a resource issue, a human resource issue in the travel and tourism industry. So certainly in my travels, I was in Orlando last week, as I think you know. I've been traveling around quite a bit since the pandemic started to ease off, so to speak, both here and in both US and Europe. But wherever you go, there is a staffing issue. Do you think that diversity in recruitment is an issue? And is that something that you would be addressing with your partners?
Absolutely. I do think that diversity in recruiting is an issue, and that's an element of what I'll also be taking a look at and assessing. I think one thing that's really important to note is that the number of people we've lost during COVID in the United States, it's over 1 million. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, that we have lost a lot of people that have been a part of the workforce. I think the other issue to really address is looking at how we have traditionally recruited and what we need to do to truly recruit and connect with audiences that either have been underserved or have not been, we've had a bias with in the past. So that takes a look. For me, what I'll be doing is connecting with they're called HBCUs, Historically Black Colleges, Universities, thinking about ways where we can truly connect with people to provide them with information on what the travel and tourism industry truly does, what it is, all the offerings that we have, so they can have a sense of curiosity and hopefully are encouraged to apply. So I'd like to take it a step further than the traditional recruiting outlets.
Sure. Jane, has staffing been an issue with regard to your listening of people bemoaning the lack of people that they can recruit. And as an addition to that, do you think that the travel and tourism as a whole faces an issue with basically how much they pay? I mean, every time I talk to anybody, the level of pay in travel and tourism is generally lower than other industries.
Yes, I think it can be a worry when you hear of people saying, oh, well, I used to work for a hotel, but now I'm working for Expedia, or now I'm working for Amazon or something like that because the hours are better, etc. So I think we need to do a little bit of work around why do you want to work in this industry and what can it give you? How can there be added fulfillment from doing what we're doing? So I think we possibly all need to work together in the community and with, as Sophia's saying, with university, with certain groups to really try and promote what it's all about to work in our industry, and that there are lots of benefits, and it is a good industry to work in. But certainly from speaking to some hotels, you know, there are new hotels opening, and some destinations they're lacking general managers. But I have been predominantly speaking to destination organizations, and I have to say there's been quite a positive outlook on the future and how with more alignment with the destination as to what they're trying to achieve, that they're also looking at new ways of how do we recruit different people and how do we focus on the people and the skills that they have rather than trying to fit people into certain jobs. How can we just look at things a bit differently now post-pandemic?
In your discussions with the destinations, you say they're working more closely. Does that mean working more closely with the local governments, with the elected officials to see what residents actually want? Because the spectre of over-tourism hangs over the industry still. People think it's gone away. People don't like to talk about it. But obviously in Europe, there are some famous examples, Barcelona, Venice, Edinburgh during August. You know, you can go on. Even the Western Highlands and Islands of Scotland have been accused of over-tourism. So was that an issue that came up?
Yes, certainly. I think when destinations had quiet streets and that we missed having conferences in town, people actually then realized, and I think government officials realized what we missed by not having tourists and not having conferences. But to make sure that we come back better, you know, one of the 8 areas, significant areas that Destinations International is focusing on is all about community alignment. And actually we're working on a community indicator to be able to understand exactly that. You know, what is the sentiment of the locals? And it needs to be this kind of triangular approach of civic society, government, and public all coming together to really look at what are the goals of the destination and how can conferences and events and tourism actually help drive what the destination is trying to do. And some destinations are doing that extremely well. I know that Visit Flanders are working on an indicator to see how their destination is flourishing. And I hear people talking about if it's a good place to live, surely it's a good place to visit because, you know, wages are good. People are being looked after in that community. So I think there's something about that, making sure that if we have over tourism, that there's a discussion around what is the right tourism and how do we make sure that that aligns with who our main beneficiaries are, and they're actually the citizens that live in the destination. So I hear a lot more on these discussions, Graham.
Absolutely. I mean, I've noticed in my travels around the world that people in post-pandemic society seem to have a greater civic pride of what they have, and they want to protect it. And they're probably going to be more vocal about protecting it as well than they perhaps they have in the past. And the biggest threat to that, of course, is greed and lack of management and lack of political leadership at a local level, I would suspect. But generally, Sophia, do you think that the travel industry, including diversity in who's employed and number of things, that the travel industry as a whole has a bad PR record? I mean, at the moment, I don't know about the US, although when I was there last week, they were full of the fact that American Airlines, US, you know, Delta, etc., is cancelling flights because of lack of pilots, etc. Long waits to get your luggage, but also over tourism, diversity. There's lots of things that go on in the travel industry don't give us a good PR, and therefore that tends to diminish the good that tourism does. Do you think that's an issue? That's something indeed that Destinations International could assist their partners with in trying to, you know, counteract that?
Absolutely. And quite honestly, that's why I got into this industry. I chose my previous life of work. I used to do international development work, economic development, sustainability, and such. And I actively chose the travel industry because I, as a traveler myself, traveling around the world, I had this, I guess, awakening that in the hospitality industry, we're meant to be hospitable. But at the end of the day, we're human, and we aren't doing a good job of either being welcoming, belonging, and creating a sense of belonging. We say in the travel industry that we travel to explore and to connect and be curious. And I didn't feel like those sentiments were always shared. And that's one of the things that I'm actively working on with our members, and even within our organization. What does that, even with the community as well, what does that mean? What does welcoming mean? What does belonging mean? And how can we foster that sense of community and then attract visitors through messaging, through imagery, through video, so we can highlight how amazing this industry is, and to be able to foster again that sense of connection. So I think that we as the industry do not do a good job of promoting the benefits and also the realities of travel, and that is a part of what I aim to do as well. I also think that it goes back to the purity of human connection and empathy. And those are two things that I am working with our destination organizations on, just to get back to the basics that we've kind of missed.
Good. Well, Sophia, Jane, I wish you the very, very best of luck in your endeavours. It sounds excellent work, very interesting work. And if you succeed in both your goals, I think that the world of travel and tourism will be a better place. So thank you for your time, and hopefully we can talk again in 3 or 4 months and see how you're getting on.
Great. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you so much, Graham.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.